Good evening. I'd like to call to order the September 24th, 2024 meeting of the City of West Palm Beach Historic Preservation Board. Can we please begin with a roll call?
Gerald Buxbaum. Jeffrey Sheldon.
Present.
James Murphy.
Present.
Amanda Schreier.
Present.
Kyle Waters.
Present.
Let the record reflect that Kristen Kellogg and Gabriel Jaroslavsky are not present.
We now move on to approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting. Do you have any changes to the agenda by staff?
Benjamin Slaughter, City Historic Preservation Planner. Good evening. There are no changes to the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any members of the board, any suggested changes to the agenda?
I have one change over here. Yeah, way down here. Case number 24-63, it does reflect that I voted as a yes. I'd recused myself during that motion.
Okay, so that's for the minutes from the last meeting? Okay, so right now we're just going to formalize the agenda, but if we will apply that to, well, actually, you know what, just make a motion. We'll just make a motion to approve the minutes. Any other changes to the minutes? No? Okay, so we'll approve the minutes from last month's meeting with that one change that you were recused.
Thank you.
From that case. Can we have a motion to approve?
I approve the minutes from last month's meeting as amended on the floor.
Do we have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Back to the agenda. Any changes to the agenda by members of the board? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion to approve?
I approve tonight's agenda for the September 24th, 2024 Historic Preservation Board meeting.
Do we have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We now move on to the report of the Historic Preservation Planner.
Good evening again. Benjamin Slaughter presenting. On our agenda tonight, first I'd like to mention that Dr. Kara Luca, the State Historic Preservation Officer, has requested a review and recommendation of application FMSF-PB-02731 for 253 Barcelona Road. This is the Ann Norton Sculpture Gallery, which details the addition of the Norton House, the Ann Norton Artist House, the Garage Cottage, as well as the landscaping and sculptures on site to be added to the National Register of Historic Places. I strongly support this application and request the board's endorsement in supporting this endeavor. Next, I'd like to bring is an update, as the board requested in the last meeting, for HPB-2249, which is 3140 Washington Road. The presentation by Rogers General Construction and Michael Perry Design and Architecture. Would you like to hear them now, or would you like me to continue?
Yes, we can hear it now.
Okay. Would you like to come up and present, please?
Hello. Good evening, ladies and gents. Thanks for having me. My name is George Hilal. I'm a project manager with Rogers General Contracting. I've been working this job from its beginning, and I'm still working there. In this presentation, I'm going to walk you through the steps that led to where we are now, the current status, and where we're headed.
Can you position the microphone a little bit higher?
Absolutely. Can you hear me better?
Yes, that's better. Thank you.
Yep. Intro. Rogers General Contracting is the general contractor on the job. Michael Perry is the architect of record, and the structural engineer of record is Carmel Engineering. Here's the list of the permits we have. This is the work sequence we've gone through. Step one, we went to some light demolition. We reduced the weight of the house in preparation to lift it. We did the same thing for the garage. We moved it to the back of the property. We then ran steel beams underneath to support the existing tie beams. I'm going to play a short time lapse showing how we rotated the house. So this is a front view of when we did the rotation. Um, There's also a side view that I'm going to put here for you. After rotating the house to the right angle it's supposed to be on, we raised the house up in the air to the new flood elevations and to do the stem walls and the footings underneath. Oh, I'm sorry, this was the wrong idea. After doing so, we built the footings underneath it. We followed the footings by the stem walls. After reaching the required strength, we pulled the steel beams supporting the house. We built support columns in the structure that will remain. We then did bracing support for these walls that remained. And this is where we are now. This is the garage. This is the front wall. This is the north wall. This is the south wall. This is the back side of the property. We're currently building the addition. There's the south wing and the north wing. And future steps. This is how the front of the property will look like in the future. This is a rendering a couple months old. And this is the back side. Thank you. And do you have any questions?
Yes. I went back and reviewed, I actually was not at this meeting. I believe it was in July of 2023 that the approval was given. And I went back and reviewed the recording of that meeting. And there were features on the back of the building, the east-facing elevation, that were to be preserved as part of the approval, and I see that those are no longer extant.
Well, they were to be brought back as part of the approval. They couldn't be preserved because of where the addition was happening. So that center section of the overhanging balcony will be rebuilt, and you can see that in the rendering that's there, but it couldn't be structurally kept where it was. We moved the whole house intact and then had to take around the side walls, which is in the permit set. We sat down with Mr. Brown and Benjamin about a month or so ago and went through that whole set. So again, what we showed remaining as the walls is what was remaining, and what the approval has, and then any of the minor changes that have been made were approved by Frederick and Hamilton. So that back portion will be rebuilt to that. It couldn't, with the two bays coming off, Amanda, there was nothing supporting that center section. You know what I mean? So it couldn't stand there by itself. So those two bays, where the two bays used to be, which were removed, and then our addition happens, that center cantilever balcony ended up coming off and gets rebuilt.
Again, I wasn't at the meeting, but in reviewing the recording, I don't believe that was the intent of the board, was to have it be demolished and reconstructed, but I don't know if there's anyone else who was there at this meeting who recalls. It's too bad we don't have
I think
Frederick
James
here.
was probably, James and Kristen were probably the only ones that were on the board at that time.
I only vaguely remember it. I'd need to see the plans to kind of trigger more of a memory log for the. Do you have any photographs of what this portion
We have
that they're
I don't know if they
Amanda's referring
do you
to?
have the backside. Can you pull up the backside from the original?
Let me see. Oh yeah, I have it here. It's one of those. Oh, there you go.
Okay. So right here,
The center picture.
so this center picture, and these two bays were being removed. That portion of the balcony was going to be, they asked for that to, in an original presentation, that was not going to be saved, but then it was to be saved. It was to be restored back to it. But because these two center bays were being, this bay and that bay were being removed, that center section is gone. And it's supported by that side. So in our plans that were submitted to the city, we showed that being reconstructed and then being built out. Because the two additions, which are now
And that
here.
received an administrative approval?
Correct.
Oh. Thank you, Michael. I was referring to, do you have any photographs of the condition prior, not in this presentation?
I don't think we have, they were in the original presentation. I don't know if we could pull that up, but they were all in the original presentation, which is what, I mean, that was that's the condition after demo. But I don't have them with us now.
If memory serves, I think, and Michael, I think one of the ideas was specifically to retain that element, that porch element.
Right, but
And I
then-
think that was initiated by myself on the floor.
Correct.
Okay, it is coming back to me.
Right, and then when we went to the structural element portion of that, we went back to, I think it was Ann then at the time, because I think Frederick may have been already gone, to show that portion, there was, when these
And
two
that's
portions.
in the authority within staff to approve that level without a return to the commission?
I would, yeah.
I don't know
The
if it
back of
is.
the,
It was a condition of approval. Melissa, Ms. Anderson, could you speak to that? If the board has something that's a condition of approval, is staff able to override that condition of approval at an administrative level without returning to the board?
Not that I'm aware of, not if it was a condition that was imposed by the board.
Okay, well, it was.
Unless the board gave staff leeway to, or wiggle room.
Yeah,
again, you can see right here, and if you, can I blow that up? Is there any way to blow that up? You guys have it on your screens, right?
yes.
Yeah. No, so see this portion right here, James? This part of that is gone because of the addition. It was from here to here that was to remain, to be brought back, because actually that was not on our original presentation. And so when this came off, and this came off, and that right there below where these supports are, which is the shoring, that's where the new doors were being placed. So there was nothing there that holds that piece up. It was actually standing. That's why we actually moved the whole structure together, because we actually had to keep it together because it was so it would hinge apart. So that's why we moved it together, and then that's what it was. So it's in the permit set of drawings that are in with the city, and we went through that with Mr. Brown and them about a month and a half ago, I think. They reviewed that and then said that we were fine to continue on.
So I just found my notes, which I was looking for from when I watched that meeting. And it says the covered porch to be retained and to add on to it and differentiate with the railing,
Correct,
which was the condition of approval.
correct.
So is there any recourse that the board has in this situation?
In terms of,
Well, it's unclear. I don't believe we're being provided any documentation or evidence that this was administratively approved. Do we have anything?
All of the permit sets that were put in and all the drawings that are in there passed through and we sat, I mean, there was a question that came up a couple month or two ago. There was a red tag put on it. They questioned some things. We went in, sat with Robert Brown, sat with Benjamin and another plan reviewer and went through that. When we left, 2.5 hours later, they called and said everything that's on the plan, there was an issue with one red line. They looked at it, they went back to the permit set, said yes, everything is fine, keep going. Then we were asked, after that, we were continue working, and then we were asked to come here. So I don't know how the administrative scenario works in here, but when the revision was put in, there was a couple window changes that Ann rejected when I met with her, and then when the permit set was put in, that was passed just like a town, when it goes through historic, she approved it. So and the permit was issued in that way. So, I mean, we met with her, we showed her that, and then the permit was issued in that way. So it's coming back and being built that way, but there was nowhere to support that piece of wall. Literally, it was because there's doors that come out further in the new design, which was approved. So there's the picture right here, which is probably the original. I can't.
I mean, I do recall being requested to make an administrative approval for a change in the roof line. There's like a jog
Rejected.
in the roof.
Which was
Yes,
rejected.
but there was no communication to myself or the board about a condition of approval being
At that time,
changed at an administrative level.
At that time, when we met with her, we showed her all the changes. There was a window change that she rejected, and the staircase, which is not here and was not part of the drawings now. And there was all the other changes, and everything in the rear she approved, and she didn't approve the roof change, and then went to you all. We went to you all. She told me to communicate with you all. We did that. Since then, that has been rejected by you all, and we continued the way and built it the way it was needed to be. It was just about actually moving the ridge line over 6 feet on the front. So at that time, when you guys got that information, she had approved all the other changes to the rear at that time, and she rejected the window, and she sent me to you all for the ridge in the front.
The video that you just shared was very impressive. The great pains and expense that was gone to move this building is considerable. Why didn't you just demolish the whole back of the building before you moved it?
You can't, because it would unhinge. So we had to take the whole entire building together. We separated the garage. We actually called Frederic and asked about demoing the garage, because the garage is connected by that wall and that little sort of via that connects it. We asked her about demoing the garage. She said no. So we were able to separate the garage from the main building. We picked up the garage, moved it to the east side of the property, because it was in the way of us moving the structure. Then we raised the whole entire structure, because if we take the back wall, and I'm sure Jeff can speak more to this than anybody else, if we take the back wall off, the building will not stay intact. So we raised the whole building, moved it, rotated it, put it back down to where it was, put it to where it was supposed to be. They jacked it up even higher, poured all new foundations underneath it, and set it back down. Then you set that back down, and then you can do the rear demo. You can't do that by taking the back wall off of the building, or the roof, because it would all just crumble.
I mean, this was an exceptional building, and I think that it was not the intent of the board in reviewing the meeting recording to see all of these features lost. And I'm very confused how we ended up at the point where we are, and I think that obviously changes in staff, I think, had a significant effect on how these changes were allowed to be made and how the project was able to progress to this point. And I'm not really sure what can be done.
Well, at that point, remember, man, I think when James had asked for that portion to be kept, it was said to go to Frederic for administrative approval for that revision. That was what was said at the meeting, because we didn't have that remaining. And then you guys requested that, and it was said, go to administrative for review of that back portion.
Mm-hmm.
So the authority was given to the staff person to make that administrative
Of the
determination.
time of the revision that was being requested. So we made that revision, and that's what was revised. And
I'm not sure that there's a lot of recourse at this point. It depends on how much, again, authority was sort of conveyed to staff during the board's discussion, and
Would you be able to go back and look at that meeting? Because I think this brings to mind concerns of mine, of whether in the future, if we're in a position like this, where we have one set of plans that are saying, an addition is going to be attached in a certain way, and then we ask for a feature to be preserved, and then this is where we end up a year later. Perhaps that case should have just been continued, and we should have had the revised plans presented to this board rather than delegating authority to have it administratively approved. So if you wouldn't mind reviewing that, I believe it was the July 2023 meeting. It doesn't have to be right now, but report back, because I do think this is something we should take into consideration with future approvals, because it's shocking to go down Washington Road and see this, and it was a very beautiful building, and of course we were happy to see it relocated in light of sea level rise and moved further away from the intracoastal. But to see so much loss of historic fabric when the building was not deteriorated, I think is not, I don't know the exact condition, but
Unfortunately,
it looks like it's relatively intact in the pictures that I had seen. So I don't believe this was the intent, and so at this point, I think to a certain extent what's done is done, but what can we learn from this experience that we as a board can apply moving forward? I don't know if you have any further thoughts, Mr. Murphy.
Well, a body always looks a little gruesome when they're on the operating table, so I kind of take the imagery with a slight grain of salt, having been first-hand staff member working with the relocation of historic structures in Miami Beach. That said, actually, it's a good conversation that we're having, because I'm not really sure what transpires after this Historic Preservation Board renders its decision. Is it in a development order? This is probably for staff. That's recorded in the clerk's office. Is it itemized conditions of approval? Because while certainly traditionally the powers are granted through staff, but I agree with Amanda that if it was, of course, the drawings in the chambers didn't show the retention of an element. We said, well, we're going to approve it, but you retain the element working with staff. Okay, the transfer of the power does go to staff, but if that portion isn't being retained, is being demolished, I think there is a little bit of room for recourse. But again, I'm not sure what happens, the process of the historic preservation after we finish and permitting picks up. If it is a development order and if it's an itemized condition, it would stand to reason that the elimination of that condition would have to come back to the board that imposed that condition. But again, I don't really know, but.
No, it's a learning curve for all of us. I think, when we were said to go back to staff, we went to staff, all those things went there, and then when it goes through permit, it passes through that. So, coming back here and explaining to you that we're going to be rebuilding that piece as it was would be what would have had to happen, to say that when we demo the 2 bays, there's no support, that piece is literally standing by itself and the new glass is coming out forward of it. So all that's gone, quote unquote, how do you build it? Would have been a way to come back and do it. But like I said, we went to staff, showed different changes and revisions, permit drawings went in, those were approved. She did go to you. So at that moment when she went to you is when we showed the revisions in the rear, showed other windows she rejected, and that ridge line moving in the front, which then went to you all, which then you did not approve.
But none of those revisions were shared with me. So if there was a revision to the roof line, something as minor as that, but something as major as removing something that was a condition of approval to be retained.
I completely understand.
And I think staff can speak better as to how this particular staff deals with imposing or interpreting conditions after they've been imposed by the board. I think they, in my experience, are, stick very much to the notes that you give them. This was a year ago, so I don't know what happened at that time. But Ben, are you able to maybe speak to that?
Benjamin Slaughter, presenting again. How this came about to my attention was through the red tag where code enforcement shut the project down. We dealt with the applicant and code enforcement for a good portion of a day, trying to get down to where we got today. And everyone's correct. Staff did administratively approve a plan set. I believe this is before I even joined the city. I was not privileged to that communication, so it caught me by surprise as well. With the conversation we had before, if there's a change in conditions, they're generally, the chair at least is notified and was discussed. And we've had problems before where, someone couldn't meet a condition and we either said yes or no. I think the house on Washington we had a discussion about Not too recently, the one was approved last month. So how we got here is much a mystery as everyone else. It is to me. Thank you.
Well, I would like to see, in addition to Ms. Anderson looking at the recording from the meeting last July, I would like to see any documentation at our next meeting that you have with
If I
this
can provide it.
administrative approval. Because again, as you said, typically the chair would be notified of changes, and I was not notified of any changes to what was approved, other than that one change in the roof line.
Okay. I don't have privilege to any of my predecessors' communications, but I'll do the best I can with what information I have. And
Okay.
So when the preservation planner initiates the meeting and talks about the number of administrative applications they've received and the number of permits, are all of those vetted through the chairperson?
No.
No, but you do see some.
If it's something we approved at the board level, and then there's a change that happens outside of the meeting, like there's some issue in construction, or, which was not the case here. I mean,
Amanda, I think that's
Yeah.
the one thing that's missing, is that it was the case here because that piece was not on the original presentation. It was asked of us to bring it back, and that was then put into staff, that staff could approve. I'm just trying to go back through the steps. So it was said that staff would be able to review that because it was on the back of the house, not on the front of the house, knowing what happened. We went in there, showed those revisions, which included that, the window on the staircase and the front roof line. Anne had approved everything in the back. She didn't approve the window, like literally rejected the window and said, I'm not even gonna bring that to Amanda. And then she said she was bringing the front roof line to you.
and you received that in writing or just by email?
No, I was at the meeting with her.
Okay,
And then we went back and forth and emailed, I was asked to email you and Kristen drawings, which I emailed and never got to speak or talk to you guys about it. Then I received an email from Ann that stated that you rejected the roof line in the front, but we're gonna wait for Kristen's input. We waited several weeks, months for that response, and then finally decided that we didn't really hear a no from Kristen. It just ended up that we said we were gonna go forward and figured out how to structurally deal with it without moving that ridge. So that's how it all happened in that one sequence. We went there with the administrative approval as asked for the change to the back and showed other items as well, which was the window and the stair and the front roof line. And the only thing she sent to you all was the front roof line.
so I'm understanding though that there was a complete breakdown. I mean,
I don't
it
know
sounds
how
like
it
there was a breakdown in communication on multiple levels.
I don't know how it happens inside their office about what
Yeah.
is approved. When the permit set then went in, the permits then showed exactly that, and that's what was then signed off on. From historic, that's signed off on. We went through the red tag, we met with everybody. They came back 2 hours later, said, yes, everything that you represented and everything that was signed off on was correct. And that's why we kept on going, but they asked us to come here and give you all an update.
Okay, well,
So, there is other changes going to be brought to you because of some property things. Sean Heiniger sold the property, and so I will make sure that everything just goes submitted to you all.
Michael, did the permit set say reconstruction of the porch?
Yes.
And
It
the
showed
staff
that piece.
signed it.
What happened was that there was one red line on the back side, okay, and it's where the sliding glass doors are. There was a difference of that. They looked at it with us on the permit set, went back, and Robert Brown had first said to me, it could be if this is
No, I understand that,
misleading.
but did the permit set say
Yes, and it showed all new structural.
reconstruction or retention?
It showed all new structural, reconstruction.
And there's the problem.
Yeah.
I don't think it's with the architect.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I understand. Listen, I want to fix the problem that I think we've all experienced throughout other projects and things we've seen in Palm Beach and whatever. So how do we, when something like that happens, we submit it to the people that we think needed to be submitted to, and then it moves forward. So I think in future, then we'll try to be a little more careful and make sure, it goes to all. But it will be reconstructed exactly the way it's supposed to be and how you all wanted it.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, one more thing in my report. Holden Judy Luntz of 194 Sunset Road, which is HPB 2272, requesting extension of their tax ad valorem case. In accordance with Ordinance 2710-94, Section 15-124 states an extension can be granted by the Historic Preservation Board, a recommendation of the Historic Planner, in accordance with procedures of the City Code. They were delayed on a city-wide changeover with our new system to EPL. They had difficulties getting their impact fee resolved, so this falls not on the applicant but on the city, and I asked the board to grant their extension.
Great. Do we need a motion to approval? Okay. Can we have a motion to approve the extension?
I move to, oh shoot. I move to approve the extension of time for the ad valorem application HPB 22-72, 194 Sunset Road.
Do we have a
Okay.
second? All
Second.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion approved. Thank
That is
you.
my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing. Rick Green's,
Rick Green, Development Services Director. I just wanted to let the board know, as you may know, Dodie Glass, who was our Deputy Development Services Director, left the city. I am pleased to announce that we have selected Anna Aponte to serve as the Assistant Director of Development Services. For approximately 20 years, Anna served as the city urban designer, handling all the projects downtown. Over the past year, she has served in the capacity as the Deputy Director of our Community Redevelopment Agency. So I'm glad to have Anna back, and she's with us tonight, so she'll be serving as the Assistant Director. And I want to let the board know also, based on the previous discussion that was just made, I want to reassure the board that both the Historic Preservation Board, our Planning Board, Downtown Action Committee, and our Zoning Board of Appeals, staff cannot modify any conditions that are imposed by any of the boards. So if there's a specific condition imposed and an applicant wants to change it, typically we make them come back to that board. So I just wanted to state that for the record.
Mr. Green, well, first I want to say congratulations. We're excited to have you, and especially with your experience, I think it'll be wonderful to have you also advising the board. And I just want to do you feel that the previous matter you were just referring to, the house on Washington Road, you've looked into it and you're comfortable, or you understand what happened?
Madam Chair, I am not comfortable because I don't have the specifics, so I'll certainly get with Benjamin and Melissa and we'll do the research and see what happened there, but I can't speak intelligently on that
Okay.
particular
I
case.
appreciate
so,
you
yeah.
looking into it.
Will do.
Thank you. We now move on to remarks by the chairperson. The matters before us this evening are quasi-judicial in nature, which means we base our decisions on competent, substantial evidence that comes before us. For each case, the applicant will have 10 minutes to present. They will be allocated 15 minutes if there's a demolition involved. After the applicant makes their presentation, staff will make a presentation. Following staff's presentation, we will allow public comment, which will be limited to 3 minutes per person. If you plan on speaking during public comment, you do need to fill out a comment card and submit it to the board secretary. After public comment, if the applicant so chooses, they will be allowed a rebuttal. And after their rebuttal, we will go into executive session where we will render our decision. To lead into this, we need to let you know if we've had any ex parte communications, and we'll begin with Mr. Baxbaum. Can you turn on your microphone, please?
Good. Thank you. As to the matter relating to the meeting on September 24th, 2024, I have not had ex parte communications. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation, nor made a site visit, nor received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be part of the record.
As to all matters on this evening's agenda, I, Jeff Sheldon, have not had ex parte communications, nor have I received written communications, nor conducted an investigation, nor made a site visit, nor received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record.
As to all matters on tonight's September 24th, 2024 Historic Preservation Board meeting, I, James Murphy, have not had ex parte communications. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit. I have not received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record.
As to matter 24-71, 531 31st Street, I, Amanda Skyer, have had ex parte communications with the architect regarding the project and the reasons for demolition and reviewing of the plans. And we did also coordinate via email to schedule that meeting. I have not conducted an investigation, nor have I made a site visit or received expert opinions. As to all other matters on the agenda, I have also had ex parte communications with Mr. Salata in reviewing the agenda in preparation for this meeting. I have not received written communications other than the letters that were emailed by residents for 194, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what projects, 194 Sunset Road and 214 Lakeland Drive. I've not conducted an investigation, I've not made a site visit, and I've not received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record.
As to all matters on tonight's agenda, I, Kyle Waters, have not had ex parte communications. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit, and I have not received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record. Thank you.
We now move on to the public comment portion of our meeting. Is there anyone here to speak on an item that's not on the agenda? If so, now is the time to do so. Anyone here to speak on an item not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will now swear in our speakers. Oh, sir, yes, we do have someone who would like to speak. So an item not on the agenda. Okay, please approach the podium.
Submitted my comment card over there. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sir, please.
Hi. Good evening. My name is Guy Quattlebaum. I'm an attorney here in West Palm Beach. And I'm here on behalf of Mary and Don Weiss, who are residents at 730 Park Place in West Palm Beach, Florida, in the Flamingo Park area. They were asking me to talk with them as they are out of town and were not able to do so. This is reference to a property that you had already reviewed at 731 Canoga Drive, case number 24-34, whereas you granted an ancillary property behind their unit. My clients actually live at the back end, so they're backyard fence to backyard fence on this. They did not receive a email or a mailing about the prior hearing, so they were not present at that hearing, and so Mr. Salata indicated that I'd be able to at least speak on their behalf. On September 9th, my clients had written a well thought out and very thoughtful appeal, so to speak, of the approval that was done. I know that it has been, Mr. Salata indicated that it was in your packages, and so I'd ask that you at least refer to that in more detail. I know because I have such a little time here. This accessory structure is a 2-story, 988 square foot structure proposed at the back property line that directly shadows my client's backyard. Simply put, this proposed structure is simply too big for the property. I know that it exceeds the 75%. I think it's over 80% of the ratio to the primary residence in the front. It is also situated on the property so that it is to the, I believe it's the eastern side of the property, where the primary residence is on the western side, so it's a direct line of view, at least from Cayuga Drive. But more importantly, for my client's sake, it overshadows and casts a shadow probably half the year into their backyard. This is 20, it was granted to be 20 feet high and 15 feet. It was kind of gerrymandered around to avoid their pool. My clients have a one-story cabana behind, and similarly, if they were to build it 20 feet, it would overshadow the Cayuga pool. And it's simply, like I said, my clients aren't against them building anything. They just think it should be one story, consistent with the rest of the neighborhood, and also so that it comports with the percentages that's required, as well as the compatibility and the proportionality aspect of the property. So again, I would just ask that you read. It's a very detailed, well-written September 9th letter to all of you, and I think that appropriately outlines all of the issues with that approval.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can we be pointed to where this is? This is in this month's packet, Mr. Salata?
If you don't, I brought extra copies if you would need.
A copy of letters in that second staple folder you have, that should be highlighted the address, the top line.
194 Sunset? I have 194 Sunset and 214 Lakeland Drive are the two letters I have. Does anybody have anything else?
May I approach?
Yes,
Chair?
please. Thank you. Yes, please.
I believe you have the September 20th letter.
Thank you.
Mr. Quattlebaum, are your clients intending to file an appeal of the decision?
Well, they filed this, and it was a last-minute notice that this hearing was going to be able to address it. If basically that was their appeal, and if you need us to file a formal appeal, we certainly will consider that if that's an option that you would permit.
At this point, you should probably go ahead and pursue whatever legal avenues you need to pursue, and it will come before the board, and this board or the city commission. So, thank you.
What is his deadline to file that paperwork? I'm sure it's coming up quickly, because it has to be filed within 30 days, right?
It depends on what the decision was and how he has to appeal.
Okay.
So it depends on whether it was a variance or a certificate of appropriateness that his client was seeking. But he as an attorney, he would have that knowledge.
And it's not my client's. It wasn't my client's application. I'm the adjoining neighbor.
Okay. Whatever legal redress you seek, you are certainly entitled to pursue.
Okay.
Yes, and I don't think we have any mechanism to revisit a decision. Is that correct? It could just be appealed to the city commission.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
This was approved last month?
This was approved last month, correct?
Correct, at the last hearing. I think it was August 28th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. We now move on to the swearing in of our speakers. If everyone who plans on speaking could please rise and raise your right hand to be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you. Please be seated. We have one consent case on tonight's agenda. May I have a motion to approve?
lost it. Someone else get it? I have lost my agenda. I approve consent case 24-04C, 432 Ardmore Road.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, if you are case number 24-04C, 432 Ardmore Road, your case has been approved. And that was a great project, by the way. It's a little sad we didn't run through the images, but no, I need to. I would love that. Thank you. Our next case is 24-28, 716 New York Street.
Good evening. My name is Brian McCulley. My husband Miguel and I bought this vacant lot in Grandview Heights back in December. Have been working with Steve Yeckes since shortly after then to develop plans for it. We made our first presentation to this board at your July meeting. I believe just Mr. Murphy and Mr. Waters were there, if memory serves. We received feedback from the board and have gone back to work since that meeting with Architect Yeckes to address the comments, and we are here to present this revised presentation. This is the summary we prepared of the feedback that we received and a summary of how we've tried to address them in the revised plans. Overall, number one, there was a request that we reduce the scale of the main structure. So we've worked to reduce it by 4 feet in height from 25 feet, 10.5 inches to 21 feet, 10.5 inches. That's primarily by lowering the parapet at the top, lowering the first floor ceiling height and the second floor ceiling height. Secondly, we were asked to add more Art Deco detail in line with the surrounding Art Deco homes in the area. As you'll see as we go through the plans and the renderings, we've added eyebrows to the main structure and accessory structures to match those of the other Art Deco structures in the area, and we added a multi-layer cornice detail to both structures. And finally, we were asked to change the window frames from black to either white or aluminum, and you'll see we've changed those to white. This next slide is just a survey of the vacant land, site plan, the main structure. Don't know why that keeps doing that. Main structure in the front, one-story accessory structure in the rear, a pool in between. First floor plans are materially the same as our initial presentation in July, as are the second floor plans and the roof plan, no material changes. This is both the prior and revised front and one side elevation. The revised are at the top, the original are at the bottom. You can see that the parapet's been lowered, and there are notes here noting the detail of the cornice at the top, as well as the eyebrows you can see along the front elevation. Again, they'll be shown a little better in the rendering. Again, here you've got the other side and the back elevations. The revised are at the top, the prior are at the bottom. Again, lowering of the parapet, the adding of the detail as requested. This is revised only elevations of the accessory structure, main revisions being the eyebrow over the door, over the entry door, and the cornice detail. Revised sections, primarily here, what would be the difference are the ceiling heights in the main structure, same here. This is the revised main structure rendering. Again, you can see the cornice detail at the top, the eyebrows we've added. They're very much in line with the other Art Deco structures in the neighborhood. I have some surrounding home pictures I'll show you. I think Mr. Murphy had directed us to those homes to get some inspiration for the changes that that the board would like made. Windows are white, the lowered parapet, and you can compare that to the prior rendering. Higher, no eyebrows, the black windows, no cornice detail. So just again, these are the current, the revised, and that was the prior rendering. This is the revised rendering of the accessory structure. The cornice detail doesn't show as well here, but it's going to match that of the main structure. Windows changed to white, the eyebrow added there. For comparison, this was the prior rendering of the accessory structure. So again, this is what we're presenting tonight. I just have a map of the neighborhood here, the subject properties, the X in the lower center, map of the street. The subject property is the red dot. These are the surrounding homes on the street, this slide and the next. I note that top left picture is 2 properties down from the subject property. That's a 4+ multi-unit Art Deco style structure. These are the other neighboring homes. This is a map of surrounding Art Deco structures, both in Grandview Heights and Flamingo Park. The subject property is the X in the middle. The numbers 1 through 9 correspond to the pictures on the following slide. And these are those Art Deco structures. Again, the upper left is 2 doors down from the subject property. The pictures in numbers 2, 3, and 4 were what we used as inspiration for the eyebrows added to the revised plans. One to note, we do have surrounding homes that are 2 stories. The top 2 pictures in the bottom left are on this block of New York Street. The one on the bottom right is on the lot abutting the back property line of the subject property. And that's it.
Thank you. Questions of the applicant?
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Do you feel it's improved? Do you like?
Sorry, I missed the question. I'm sorry.
Do you like the design better than you did before?
Oh, we're happy with it. Yeah.
You're asking me to? A3 and AB are the sheets to look at. You can see the differences. You requested a change in massing, and I think we've accomplished that. You asked for change of the frames, we accomplished that, and you asked for additional details for Art Deco. As Mr. McCauley said, we added eyebrows. We also did some changes in the banding, which you can see on those A3 and AB, A3A and A3B drawings. So we did try to accommodate the request for any changes that were made.
Thank you. No, I know the changes. I was looking more for a subjective answer, but thank you.
Okay.
And I was not at the meeting when this was last presented. I believe there was a previous approval for a bungalow on this site. Was there a reason given why those plans were not?
We were not the owner at that time, but Mr. Yeckes represented them, so.
And you had no interest in building the building as designed?
That's correct.
Okay.
There were actually a couple of owners in between the original application and these individuals, so they wanted a different program.
Okay. Okay. Any further questions of the applicant?
I just have one. The rooftop decking also now has a railing system. Will that be visible from the street?
Not from the front, because it's way in the back. It only goes 12 feet from the rear wall. So you wouldn't be able to see that because the parapet or the wall height is too high.
Thank you.
There's not a roof plan, but my reading of the side elevation is that the roof deck doesn't occupy the entire roof.
No. It
That's
only-
correct, and there is a roof plan in here.
I'm just following the outline of the safety rail, so it's just in the last quarter of the roof.
Correct.
In the previous version, it occupied the entirety of the roof.
No, it was limited to the back portion.
It was only a railing because the parapet served as the rail,
Yeah.
guardrail.
So in theory, yeah, because the wall surrounded the whole thing, you could have seen it that way, but it was always intended just to be this back portion, so it's not visible from the front.
Any further questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Benjamin Salata presenting HP Case 2428, new construction at 716 New York Street. This is our aerial, and this is our site plan. Nothing has changed since the last rendition of the site plans. This is the photo rendering as provided as compared to the previous. And these are surrounding houses. I know the applicant covered some of this already. This is the 2008 house, which was demolished. And in doing research with the revised vision here, this board approved HP 2368, which was 1716 Lake Avenue, is now 75 Park Place, which is 0.2 miles in Grandview Heights. Approved a very similar style of construction. I do not believe this one's permitted or constructed yet. This request is for a two-story Art Deco house, approximately 1,956 square feet. 864 is on the second story, detached single-story accessory garage, approximately 636 square feet, and an 81 square foot carport. This is the floor plan as proposed, as compared to the previous and the accessory structures on the previous. The second story floor plan, and the previous as well. And this is the accessory structure floor plan. And the elevations shows the previous and the current. This is the new proposed, the rear as composed to the last side, the last version. The east elevation and the west elevation. And this is the accessory structure in all four elevations currently proposed. The previous ones. And this is the roof plan that's proposed. This is the streetscape as provided by the client. And this is in the context of the surrounding blocks. Staff does believe this meets codes 9 and 10. We recommend approval of two conditions: that the casement fixed windows be white or silver, which the client has met. And same thing with the doors, white or silver, with no low E glass on the street elevation. Any questions of staff?
Questions of staff? The example that you gave of a prior approval of the board, do you have any context for that approval, i.e. the surrounding buildings?
No, I do not. I was actually reviewing the permit today, and it just kind of clicked in my head. I forgot all about this project until now.
Okay.
So I really wish I had more hours to dive into it, but
Okay.
just happy serendipity that I was reviewing this today.
Are you aware of any two-story Art Deco single-family homes in this historic district?
This would be the first.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have one comment card, William Cross.
Good evening, William Cross, 714 New York Street, directly to the east of the subject site. Couple of things to start off with. I'm very appreciative of the board's input from the last hearing that this was presented at. I definitely agree that the eyebrow features and some of the embellishments along the facades are dramatic improvement. But I want to clarify that I still support this request as I did before, and I defer to y'all as to what's the appropriate style. I'm trying to stay out and mind my own business. I have new neighbors. They've been fantastic. They've provided all the information regarding their presentations and their elevations and their intentions and been very forthright, and I think I'm very fortunate to have them as future neighbors. I do want to clarify, I do believe it's not necessarily the exact same style, but at the northeast corner of Park and Lake, you guys have recently approved a 2-story deco style building. You may recollect it's right across from the museum there, the Armory Art facility. And this board did recently approve that several months ago. So this would be like the second of this type style in the neighborhood. And I think they've done a good job of pointing out to you the ones that are already in the neighborhood. All that said, this is actually the third set of plans for this. There was a previous 2-story approval, very similar in massing and bulk, but it was a different architectural style. There was the single story that's been mentioned. I do think the accessory structure on that was 2 stories, or it was the one prior. And now we have this. Being appreciative of the changes, I have one comment, and I've been very open with Benjamin about this. I've been very open with Brian and Miguel about it, and they've been very accommodating, and that is with the loss of the parapet. I've lost over 3.5 feet of what would have been a visual screen of what I support as their rooftop deck. And with the loss of that, I asked them, what can you do to potentially offset that? And I said, do you have a landscape plan or whatnot? And they did email me back with a suggestion that they may or may not be able to plant planter boxes or install planter boxes just on the east side. And it's not going to do a whole lot. And I appreciate that offer, and I'm just wondering if the board can consider that. I have drafted a condition of approval that I've given a copy to Brian of. It's very loosely worded. I do not want this to become a sticking point, go down a rabbit hole about conditions. It's very simply worded. If it's a problem for the board, I'm happy to just have them voice on the record that they'll do the best they can to screen the railing that I'm now going to see. And it's just a matter of privacy because that's where our kitchen kind of looks up at. We're always in there doing dishes, and we have decent-sized windows in the dining room. And I'm okay with the second-story windows. It is what it is. The rooftop deck, while not the purview of this board, is just something that a little wishy-washy and heartburn over. But I do not want it to go away. They very much want it. I support it. I do not want the board to spend too much time on it. All that said, I appreciate your time. Fantastic changes, big improvement as far as the appearance. Thanks so much for the comments.
Thank you. Would you like a rebuttal? You are welcome to respond if you feel it's necessary.
No rebuttal. Bill and I have had communications on this. I've committed to working with him to make sure that it's addressed and giving him some examples of what we thought would be address his concerns and look good. So I know he's got some language he may want to present to you. I've seen it. I don't have any objections to it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we now move on into executive session. Unless, is there any further comment? Don't have any other cards. Okay, we now move into executive session.
I can start. One of the things that I think, Amanda, you should probably be aware of is that when this applicant began, they spoke about the Art Deco, and I think there was some style chosen, and there was some reaction. I think there was discussion by the members that were present about the appropriate style, where clearly your immediate response with your mind would go to that there should probably be a one-story bungalow on site. But if my recollection, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Melissa or Benjamin, the applicants did reach out to staff for design direction on if this would be an appropriate style, and they were given the green light. Out of absolute respect and deference to staff, I thought that it would be, at least for me, to not criticize the design in terms of the architectural style, but criticize the execution of said architectural style. And that's exactly what I did. My comments were directed at the last meeting. But I thought that of fundamental fairness to the applicant, it would be, considering that they did get the design direction by the professional staff, that Art Deco two-story would be appropriate. I didn't feel that it was appropriate for us to condemn that decision.
Okay. Mr. Salata, can you bring up the streetscape, please?
Would you like this one or this one?
This one, thank you. So, as I mentioned earlier, I was not at the meeting when this was first presented, but to me, I think this is very strong evidence that the project as proposed does not meet the new construction compatibility standards, specifically the size, scale, bulk, mass, and volume standard that which says the physical size, scale, bulk, mass, and volume should be compatible with the surrounding buildings without overwhelming them. I think by definition, this overwhelms the buildings that surround it. And it's unfortunate that I was not at this meeting where I could have shared this sooner so that the owners could take it into consideration, but I am unable to support this application as proposed. I think it's completely out of scale with the context of of this block. I think it's important to consider the architectural style, what else is present in the historic district, but you also have to look at the individual street and the block that the proposed project is located on. And I think the previous example on Park Place, that's a much wider road, and it's also has many two-story homes on it, and I can think of a number off the top of my head. So I can't speak for anyone else on the board, and again, I'm coming to this late, which I'm being very clear about, but I do not believe that this meets the compatibility standards for new construction. But I'm sorry, we're in executive session. So I don't know what that all leaves you with, but I think if that was the case, that staff directed them in this direction, I find that unfortunate because I don't think that this is compatible. But again, I'm just one vote, and everyone else here has their own decisions to be made. And so with that, I don't know if we want to just go ahead and put it to a vote. I don't know how you want to. I don't know who I don't know who else was here.
So 2 of us were present of the 5, and an affirmative or denial would be of 4 members. So you have a short board, gentlemen.
Yes, you need 4.
So I absolutely respect everything the chairwoman just said, and in certain light agree with most of it. There is a 2-story structure across the street, and perhaps behind their property. So while I'm only one vote, I think the proposed improvements are just that, an absolute improvement to what was previously presented. And I can be supportive of the application with certain refinements. I still think there's some awkward areas, like the garage doors on the side and rear, but that's so far away from the general idea of the massing not being compatible and not meeting the standards for additions. I'm very curious to hear from our other commissioners.
I'll chime in since I was here as well, and I absolutely respect, Amanda, what you've said. That's spot on. We are presented with these. we're able to have a select items for, for our review, and this is what we had. Changes were done in a positive manner, I agree. I think you're referencing one of the 2 stories, 733 New York Street, gorgeous home, and it is a 2-story that butts up very close to it as well. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to the guidance for staff for what we had, and I will follow your lead on that. It's an improvement. Is it the right selection? And that's kind of why I pointed to 733 New York Street. It's done very well. It does fit a little better. That would be my comment back.
Would anybody else like to weigh in? Or would
I tend to agree with Ms. Geyer on this one, that I do feel this overwhelms the street, specifically, since this is one of the only two-story, this design, and and the elevation that we're seeing right now, and in context with the street, I can't be on board with it.
Architecturally, I think the structure is lovely, but when I look at it next to the other homes on either side, I think it's just very imposing.
So, using that as kind of a straw poll, I think it's an unfortunate position that we face, being the limited number of commissioners present tonight. I could go ahead and make a motion to approve it as presented and see where that falls, but I pretty...
Yes, sir, please.
Unfortunately, and it's our error, the streetscape is the original. It is reduced in scale, as I said. So I don't know if that fully addresses the concerns that have been expressed, but the scale is not this. The scale will be smaller than is depicted in this. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Should we discuss your further refinements? No? I also have thoughts about the roof deck, which again, I was not here at that last meeting. I don't think roof decks, especially with the height of this building in comparison with all of the other surrounding buildings, is inappropriate. And I don't know of any historical precedents. I know we've approved, I believe in this neighborhood, perhaps an accessory structure that, I don't even know if we approved it. I remember one being proposed once, but I don't think we've approved that either. I regret that I was not at the meeting to share these comments, so you had a chance to respond to them. And so, but I do feel that I cannot support this application as proposed. What do you do when this happens at ARCOM? They just go with it, right, based on who's there?
No, they don't just go with it. Contextual relationship is very important for the Architectural Commission and for the Town of Palm Beach, Design Review Board of Miami Beach. That said, the discussion seems to have moved away with the architectural style, and it seems to be now just a matter of the fact that it's 2-story versus 1-story. And that's something that we've spoken about on multiple applications.
I don't know if it's just that it's 2-story versus 1-story. I have an issue, I think,
With the style.
with the style in this context, which I was not at the previous meeting to express. It just, the way that the style is articulated, I just don't, I think there are different ways to do Art Deco. I don't know, like the building on Washington Road that we were looking at earlier. There was more breaks in the massing. I think it's, part of it is, for lack of a better word, the boxiness of it. And I think it's also just this drawing here. I know there's some curvature to it on the first and the second floor, but I just, when I look at the rhythm of the street, it doesn't flow the way that it should. It feels like a very abrupt experience of how this would impact the street. And I know that that building just a few doors down is Art Deco, but it doesn't have the same presence because it's only a one-story, and it also, I think, has less detailing. I don't know, there's a number, I don't know. I'm really at a loss because I feel bad for the homeowners that they're in this position to be here at the second meeting. Should we, I guess we could ask the property owner what they would like to do. Would you like us to put it to a motion and see, or I don't know if you want to suggest any further?
Okay. Wasn't there discussion about eliminating, eliminating the back balcony with the spiral that gets to the roof deck, so that would gain 8 feet, that you could push back the second floor massing further back? Am I recalling that incorrectly? Didn't we kind of speak about that?
I don't recall that specifically, I'm sorry. I don't remember that.
The point being is there seems to be a little bit of opportunity to push the massing of the second floor back further away from the first floor, but I think that I don't think that would persuade some of the chairperson's overreaching concerns for the project that stems from both massing and style. So
would you like us, I guess, to give you some feeling that you have a chance to give some input, would you like us to make a motion based on what we're being presented, or would you like the opportunity to perhaps take into consideration some of the comments that were made and we could continue the case? I know that's not ideal. I'm sure you were hoping to have an approval at this meeting.
Well, the motion will fail, right?
I'm not sure. I mean, we can try, but if it does fail, there's no other option at that point.
Well, there's 3.
Well, yes, you could make another motion, yes, yeah. But
Approval,
we could
denial,
approve or deny, yes.
or
But I mean,
deferral.
yes, exactly, thank you. I was thinking of deny, yes.
I'm
But-
sorry, I didn't follow that.
Okay, so if Mr. Murphy makes a motion to approve and that fails, we could then either make a motion to continue or a motion to deny. So do you want to try the motion to approve? I'm trying to give you, at least help you feel that you
Yeah,
have.
I mean, the motion to approve, so we know
some-
where we are, and then we'll take the
Okay.
feedback and we'll make our decisions on what we can do.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just say one thing?
Yes.
I have to object as a licensed architect that we did everything that the last board told us to do. There wasn't any objection to the style, other than details that we had to address. The roof deck was addressed, but they basically didn't tell us to change it. We made every effort to satisfy all of the boards, and because people weren't here, now we're all of a sudden doing the wrong style. There shouldn't be 2 stories. I think this is the wrong way to approach an applicant, because I, as an architect, took every one of your, or the board's direction. We satisfied them, and now you're telling us that was wrong for them to approve it or give us guidance. You want us to do something completely different. And that on my end, that's completely redesigning this building. And I took direction already and tried to follow that direction to the T. So I really object to your criticisms on this meeting. I just want to say that.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. And I just want to be clear, I am not saying outright that I object to the style. I think the way that it is designed, in the way that it meets the street and how imposing it is on the surrounding buildings are really the more important parts of my concern, as are the roof deck. And again, I'm just one vote, but I am entitled to my opinion, and as is everyone else on this board. So with that, would you like to make a motion?
I will. I move to approve historic case file 24-28, 716 New York Street, with conditions. The conditions being the 2 staff conditions, and I'm going to add in the elimination of the roof deck.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Pass 3-2.
Okay. And my vote is a nay.
Nay.
And I'll state for the record that I do not feel as proposed, it meets the new construction compatibility standards for size, scale, bulk, mass, and volume. So three passes according to our board attorney, so your project is approved. Thank you. Our next case is 24-53, 309 Grayman Drive.
Hello, my name is David Gangler. I'm the architect of record. It's my pleasure to present our changes for 309 Grayman. I know, Amanda, you weren't here for the last presentation. I'll try and keep it short. But let me go to the next slide. Okay, so the major comments from the last presentation, this is a new build. There's no home on this lot. It's a vacant lot. And we wanted a little bit more contemporary style than the board was, usually granting. And they also said they didn't, have any other, context for a side entering garage on a lot this narrow. So the biggest change for this project was reorienting the entry and kind of swapping it with the garage. As you can see on the slide on the right is the new proposed. And the style of the house, we also switched to a more traditional style. I would say in this neighborhood, there's this vernacular 2-story style house with the carport attached to the side. I was looking for several precedents in this neighborhood of 2-story houses with forward-facing garages, and there are very little, but what there are many of are the 2-story houses with a carport on the side. So the design for this house is basically keeping in that style, but rather than having an open carport, we have the garage in the front and then a bedroom above. Like I said, it's a narrow lot, so the house is very streamlined. We meet all of the size, bulk characteristics. We are under the lot coverage, and we're asking for the special exception bonus on floor to area ratio. that is granted to new houses as well in the historic neighborhood, as long as in addition to this request, we also increase the side setbacks by 2 feet on either side, which we have done. This is the new streetscape. I'll put up the next slide. You can see versus the previous. So the previous design is on top. And on this road, Graben, you have a mixture of different design styles. On the far left is a house that Mr. Rennie and I did several years ago. It has, arched features, and we have a metal roof on that house. We asked the board if a metal roof, because there are several houses on this street that have metal roofs, would be allowed or approved or encouraged, and we heard that maybe there were too many metal roofs that had been approved. So for this project, we're sticking with a flat white concrete tile roof of the Bermuda style. The two houses in between, just to the left of our project, are the Mission style house, 2-story, and the house on the right is another 1-story Florida vernacular, has Bermuda, shutters and maybe an asphalt roof. I felt like the rhythm of the street having too many Mission style houses in a row, I didn't feel that was right, so I kind of like the way that I broke it up, adding this hip roof massing. And the solid versus void, I believe, is pretty much the same as the other 2-story houses on the street. This is the floor plan of the first floor and the second floor. It's a very standard hip roof design. This is the new elevation, and I will put it up with the previous elevation so you can see the comparison. This is the east side. The new rear versus the old rear, and we also, per board, request, lowered the concrete beam height of the second floor by a foot. I think it was at 10 feet, now it's at 9 feet. And the new side elevation. The fireplace moved to the side of the living room. As far as the windows go, we now have white windows. We had originally presented dark bronze, which is popular these days, but on this street, perhaps the white windows will fit a little bit better. We have an assortment of fixed windows in different styles, but the primary window for the house is a single hung window with a 6/6 Muntin configuration, and French doors and sliding glass doors, and we have a stain finished mahogany color finish front door and garage. These are the colors and the concept photo of the colors. It's a white base with green shutters and a white roof, and the mahogany accents. I just wanted to say, as far as for the Secretary of Interior standards, additional criteria, we believe our design for the new single-family home matches its historic neighbors in height, character, style, proportion of openings, and rhythms of solids and voids. The proposed design also retains the rhythm of the street and the relationship to the buildings and open space between them. In our proposed design, we use the same materials and finishes that are typical of this style of architecture in and of the historic district in general, such as the single-hung windows, exposed rafter tails, the tiered chimney, concrete tile roofing, Bahama shutters, and stained wood doors. And lastly, I believe the new single-family home does not negatively affect the appearance of mass or bulk of this street and remains in harmony with its neighbors on Grayman Drive and of Southland Park District. Oh,
Thank
there's one
you.
more rendering, sorry. And that's the overall. So, thank you. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Questions of the applicant? Well, I just want to thank you for taking our comments into consideration. I think it's greatly improved, and I also appreciate your direct reference of the compatibility standards, as that is what guides us in making our decisions when assessing new construction proposals. I do have one question about what's in our packet, which I did not see in your presentation. There is a previously proposed option that has a portico with a triangular pediment on the top.
Yes, that was a in-between, I guess,
in-between.
design version. We were seen in July, so we've had a couple months, and at the time that design had kind of circulated around, and we gave it to Ben to see if this was a more appropriate style. Internally, we had already decided that maybe the siding on this street wasn't the right style, and going so far colonial, you know, they weren't in love with the pediment. So this is our refined version of that.
Okay. The thing that just jumps out at me is the top of this portico. I don't find that it has historical precedent, and so when I saw this other option in the packet, I just, are you open to changing the top of that portico?
Yeah,
feature?
I think one of the comments we got back from the owner was that maybe it was too temple-like, you know, so if the change to the front feature, we're very open to changing it to however you guys would suggest. You know, design's never done. It keeps getting better as you go. You know, at some point we have to stop and build, but as long as it doesn't go back to too temple-ish, I think we'd be happy with whatever the direction was.
Okay, I think that's fair.
Oh, sorry.
Would you like to?
I just want to say thanks for all the comments, because it actually does look better, so we appreciate everything that you guys have done.
We appreciate hearing that. Any other, I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on the portico or any other feature questions?
Yeah, I think it looks like the icing's too thick. I kind of like it better than the pediment, but it does look fake. Like, you know, kind of like when it's styrofoam, and it doesn't look like authentic architecture. But I like the direction of that. It's the last remaining bit of quirk. That the last house had a lot of quirk, and I do kind of lament that. This is definitely a superior design, but it's lost all of its quirk. I think you guys are nodding in agreement. And the last one had a lot of kind of fun surprise elements, and this is very straightforward and very, very handsome.
Thank you. Do you have any suggestions on how that would be addressed, the portico, or?
I think just thinning out the what is that? The ornamentation. Don't you think?
Yes. It feels heavy.
Heavy. Heavy is the word I was going to use.
Yeah.
If I could add, the band that goes around the top of the arch is the same band that comes around the body of the building, and they kind of connect. I did that on purpose because I'm just, you know, that's how I think, but after looking at it and hearing your comments, that doesn't necessarily have to happen, and just by breaking that line maybe and bringing it down a little bit and not having it as thick as the band that goes around would be, you know, better looking.
Great. Your microphone's off.
It doesn't have to be so monumental. It's not holding up a lot. It's not holding up a balcony or.
You mean the columns?
What's above the column?
Oh, what's above the columns, yeah. Yeah. Any other comments?
What's the roofing material on the portico?
I'm sorry, the roofing material on the main body of the house
On
is
the
a
portico.
concrete flat tile. The roof over this little arched period, portico, I was thinking was metal, just to make the round curve. And it might be a little bit more attractive than if you were to put tile on it.
Any further questions or comments from the applicant? Thank you.
All right, Benjamin Slaughter, once again presenting HB case 2453, new construction at 309 Grayman Drive. This is a location aerial. This is our site plan. This is photos of the existing lot. This is photos of the westerly neighbors, easterly neighbor, and across the street, Grayman Drive. The request is to propose a two-story neo-eclectic inspired home of 1,797 square feet, proposed cover terrace of 252 square feet, a front terrace of 24 square feet, and a second story of 1,626 square feet. This is the floor plan as proposed. That was his previous rendition. The second floor is proposed and previously. The south elevation, and this is the previous proposal. We ordered a few other renditions. Some of them got mixed up in the slideshow of the different roofs, but I guess that's kind of a happy accident because you guys kind of appreciate this one a little bit. This proposed north elevation, the previous proposed, east, the previous, and finally the west. The roof plan is shown. Here's the last metal roof. The streetscape again. And we do believe this meets codes 9 and 10, the Secretary of Interior standards. We recommend approval of two conditions. One of the green bonuses include Energy Star rated appliances, R40 spray insulation, high SEER HV, low EN windows, and non-street facing elevations. And also, in case the shutters go back up, the previous rendition, we requested metal LED and glass windows and doors and street elevations, even if they're behind shutters. Any questions?
Questions of staff? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any members of the public that wish to speak on this case? Okay, seeing none, we'll go into executive session. Well, as I said earlier, I really appreciate how much the applicant took into consideration our comments and the compatibility standards, and for being amenable to modifying, I guess, the banding on the portico. So I think based on our discussion, that would be an additional condition of approval, in addition to the, I believe it was 2 by staff.
I'm prepared to make a motion if there's no further discussion.
Please go ahead.
Great. For the record, score 1 for front-loaded garages. So keeping track now. I move that Historic Preservation Board approve application number 24-53 for new construction in accordance with standards 9 and 10 as set forth in section 9449 of the city zoning and land development regulations. The motion is based on the testimony presented along with the application submitted and the staff memo, which constitute competent substantial evidence. In addition, the approval of this request is made conditional upon the following restrictions, stipulations, and safeguards that I move are necessary to ensure compliance with the purpose and the intent of the ordinance, the element of the comprehensive plan of the city of West Palm Beach, the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation, specifically standards 9 and 10, specifically would state the conditions include the following. I have to read them from the staff memo. Did you get the staff memo? You're okay with the conditions? Conditions 1 is green bonuses include low energy star rated appliances, R4 spray insulation, high SEER HVAC, low EON windows on street facing elevations. Number 2, no low E glass on windows and doors on street elevation, even if behind shutters. These are outlined in the staff memo. 3, the applicant shall work with planning staff to refine the curvilinear pediment front entry feature to refine its mass and bulk. And that's it.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Your case is approved. Thank you. Our next case is case number 24-37, 214 Lakeland Drive.
Good afternoon, how are you? Today we're here to present our request to add an accessory structure in the rear of the 214 Lakeland Drive property. We were here in the last hearing and we received a recommendation of approval based on a few changes that we had to make. The main change was to reduce the size of the structure, which we did. We redesigned it and reduced it from the previous 970 square feet to 872. And also, I mean, that's really the main request. The other request was obviously to preserve and reuse the wood doors and the corbels that were previously removed from the structure. So this is a picture of the main structure, the main house. How do you move? Oh, this is a picture. Sorry. This is a picture of the backyard of the house, face and the rear of the main property. The area of the backyard where the accessory structure will be constructed. Location on a map of the 214 Lakeland address. And the background analysis on the previous meeting, as this is what Ben has prepared for us. And again, we received a recommendation of approval based on some changes, which were the reduction of the size of the accessory structure from 970 square feet to 872. Site survey, location of the accessory structure to be constructed, floor plan elevations of the front, rear, and sides. Once again, floor plan, front elevation, structural details, electrical, plumbing, and that is it.
Okay, questions of the applicant? You did not receive permission to demolish the building. What happened? Why was it demolished?
That is correct. There are some circumstances around every situation. When we started the process and we came on board as the general contractors for the project, we submitted the previous drawings for plan review. I believe that Mr. Jacob had already an approval to proceed with the previous design of the house the way it was with the variance to add to the existing garage. The plans were going through the review process. Every discipline was approved. The only pending comment was a zoning comment because there was a discrepancy on the cover sheet that did not match what was shown on the Palm Beach County property appraiser as far as the square footage of under air conditioning and outside. So there basically was a typo on the cover sheet. We proceeded with the removal of the components that were to be stored. The plan, as approved and reviewed on the structural side, called for CBS walls all around the perimeter on a thickened concrete footer. The existing structure was 2x4 walls with stucco on the outside, sitting on a flat 4-inch slab that had no structural integrity or capacity to support the new structure. So regardless, the structure to which we're attaching to did not conform or was not able to be a part of the new structure as the plans described the process which we had to build. So what we did is, again, it wasn't a demolition, it was a deconstruction. We removed and preserved the elements of the facade that were to be restored. On the previous meeting, we presented that. We showed the pictures of all the items salvaged and how the deconstruction was performed. And obviously, there was a red tag placed in the project. We addressed that. We covered a fine. We have an application for demolition. And everything is basically contingent on the changes that we made based on last meeting, and we're here to present that. But that's the circumstances around that situation.
So when were you last here?
July 25th, was it? The July hearing, was it 25th?
Okay, so
or
another
23rd?
one that I missed. So I guess I'll wait for staff to fill me in, but I don't know how we got here. Apparently a lot happened at that July meeting. Does anybody else? Yes, but he's saying that he came and informed you all in July. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that was addressed, that was discussed in the July meeting. On the July meeting, we went over all of this, and the request was to reduce the size of the property. We gave up the variance that we had for the setback, and we agreed to propose this accessory structure without the request of a variance on the setback of the rear of the property, and we reduced the size of it. But all of these items were addressed on the July meeting. That's why we weren't bringing them up.
And the demolition happened before or after that meeting?
Before that.
Before.
Well, before. Okay, so you were all aware in July when they came that the building was gone?
Yes.
And I remember the preservation of the material that they put on the side to use for the new structure.
That is correct, sir.
Okay.
Is it possible that it was the June meeting?
No, July.
Because I was here in June, and I remember the case, but I wasn't here in July.
Could have been. You were here, I believe.
You were here in a meeting, I recall, but I'm pretty positive because we missed the August and we did September, so it was July.
It might have been June, because I remember we could come back in July or August.
So I'm sorry, maybe I'm mistaken on my records. I thought it was a July.
Okay.
At this point, I'll have to verify.
Okay. Okay, I guess I have more questions for Mr. Salata. Any questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Benjamin Slot presenting HPP case 2437, reconstruction of detached garage for 214 Lakeland Drive. This is our aerial. The site plan is shown. Photos of the existing site. Photos of the controlled unauthorized demolition. Photo of the proposed rendering in the previous rendering, which was approved in HPB 2486. From that presentation, we were able to recover photos of the previous structure. The request is for the reconstruction of attached garage and the new accessory structure of 872 square feet. This is the floor plan as proposed. This was the previous proposal. The front elevation is proposed. Versus the previous. The left elevation. The right elevations. And the rear. The roof plan is proposed and previously. Codes 9 and 10, I do believe applies to this, even with the circumstances. The approval of conditions that reuse all retained architectural features from the previous unapproved accessory structure demolition. Any additional bracket knee braces be constructed from real wood, not resin or foam mold, and a real wood door or real wood veneer be on the proposed garage doors. Questions?
Thanks, Ben. Do you have, was the direction by the Historic Preservation Board at the last month to reduce it to 872 square feet?
I don't
Or
believe that's
to reduce the accessory structure?
to reduce the accessory structure.
Thank you.
I don't believe the exact number was given.
I didn't think so. Thank you.
And was there a reduction from the last meeting? What was proposed?
The last rendition was 970 square feet.
Okay. Do you have what's in our packet as the comparison of the previous proposal compared to the current proposal?
It should be attachments B, C, D, and E. I'm sorry, E's the roof plan, just B, C, and D.
And do we have in our packet what was originally approved?
Just the front elevation. The one from 2286.
Okay, so that's on page 90 in the packet, is what was approved. Okay, any further questions of staff?
Ben, on page 92, attachment D, can you clarify which is currently proposed? They're just both labeled proposed? And
My apologies, it is the top one proposed, the second one is the previously proposed.
And there are different architectural scales, which is annoying. Okay.
Yeah,
The top is proposed
Yes, where it says proposed?
with the single door now.
Yes. And the CC elevation's the crosscut. It's the only way to really kind of get a good view of the back.
I thought it was the bottom one. I'm so confused.
The building itself was just a little shorter in, but didn't change on the sides.
Okay.
I have a question now, Benjamin, and we'll probably carry this on to the executive session. Do you see any reason, if we're reconstructing the garage that's there, any reason to be opposed against the metal roof? The main structure has a shingle roof, and this is going to metal. So is there a future to change the main house to a metal? These are questions I'm just kind of circulating around. I want to make sure there's kind of uniformity and what your thoughts are.
I didn't have an opinion on the roof. I knew you guys were gonna take this one to heart with the architectural design. So I did not push back any of the architecture. Within this packet and the supplemental materials, there's letters supporting and opposing this project.
Any further questions of staff? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have one public comment card, George Haru? I'm sorry if I read that incorrectly. Harvey? Okay, sorry.
George Harvey, 209 Walton Boulevard.
Is your microphone on, sir? There should be a button that says push, and there should be a green light right on the microphone base.
You're on.
Great, thank you.
George Harvey, 209 Walton Boulevard. Southern property to this. First, to give you perspective, for myself and my wife, we have been rehabilitating historic properties in West Palm since 2014. We did 216 Lakeland Drive, for which you recognized us as the rehabilitation of the year. We did 218 Lakeland Drive. We did 209, which also facilitated 209 Walton Boulevard, which also facilitated 211 Walton Boulevard. Another point of these properties, significant to us personally, is the builder of these. There's 7 on the street by Dr. Voorhees, who built 214, 216, 218, 225, 231, and 35 other properties between the 20s and 30s of that time period, and went on to establish church in West Palm and minister to the people. The point of this since 2022, I think that was brought up, is massing. And we're always concerned with preserving the aesthetic, the appearance, the proportionality of these homes from the street and to the homeowners. And we always go back to the rule, I think, is the guidance is, will the original homeowner recognize the house when they return? And that's our standard. I'm not opposed to renovations, additions, changes. And this one, it just seems a little bit much. You almost had a 1-to-1 proportionality. You have a 1 to 0.75 proportionality now, 1,200 feet in the main property, 862 now. The height is 14 feet, which matches the height of the existing structure, the main structure. We'd like that to come down. I just saw the rear elevation, so these windows will shine into 215 Walton, 209 Walton, 211 Walton. Is there something that can be done? We didn't see a landscape plan for this either to accommodate for this massive structure being built in the back. The metal roof is a good point. It's just the mass. Sound also reflecting off of that into that property, light shining in to the back of these properties now, character of that new garage, and also purpose of that garage. I'm sorry, that new construction ADU unit in the back. So these are our concerns. That's it. We'd just like to see a revision down, maybe something smaller, definitely lower in height, maybe some obstruction to the windows in the back and some landscape. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any further public comment on this case? Okay, would you like to offer a rebuttal?
Hello, my name's Jacob. I'm the homeowner. I just want to point out, for perspective, originally, and this is years ago, but it was approved with the variance. It was an 18-foot high roof. I believe it was 2.5 feet off the wall. That has been reduced to 14 feet tall, so it has been reduced some, and now it's no variance, so it's 5 feet off the property line. And I believe you got them, but we did submit 3 or 4 letters from immediate neighbors. Our immediate neighbor adjacent to us on the left and our immediate neighbor adjacent to us on the right both submitted letters. Both of them were more than happy to support this project and have 0 issues with it. So thank you for your consideration. Also, the reduction that you suggested, the 870, I'm more than happy with it. It was a good suggestion. It complements the house more than the 970 would have, so thank you for that. And that's it.
Thank you. Sir, would you like to return to the microphone?
From the proposal this evening, I'm not sure if I had submitted a letter in June for the June 24th meeting in opposition, and I think he just gave that to you for this evening.
Yes, we
So
have.
we were unable to attend, we submitted the letter. as
Okay,
well.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now go into executive session. So what was the direction given as far as bringing it down? And do you feel that that request has been met?
So I do recall this application in its original form, and I spoke on that in the July meeting, I believe. I spoke how I was the dissenting vote on the COA and on the variance request because I felt that the original application, there was no hardship for granting the variance and that the mass of the accessory structure was oversized. Come last month or June, I think it was, when this was presented, the direction was now that they're not tethered to the historic element of said addition that the board granted, they no longer requested the variance request, so they pulled it in so that the variance was no longer needed. And they did reduce the height of the proposal from the original conception. I believe that the direction, and maybe Melissa and the other member can help, that was to further reduce the accessory structure. I'm not sure that the 100 or so square feet is successful in that, but I don't think we gave a specific number, which is why I asked the staff about that.
Sir, would you like to come to the microphone, please?
Sorry, just a brief comment. A recollection from the previous meeting, we did request in writing the square footage reduction to specifically 873 square feet, and we came in a foot under at 872. And that was based on Mr. Salata's calculation or a table that he presented, and we received that exact square footage as a request. And also the height correction happened on a previous meeting. The June or July meeting that we came in was already at 14. So that was not a change that was made in this. That was a previous request. Thank you.
What is the height of the primary structure? Because I don't think we have that information. I feel like that came up originally. It's that we weren't given any context. Or maybe that's another project. I feel like it happens often. What is the height? Do you know of the primary structure?
The height of the primary, I don't think is on the drawings, but let me see if I have it on one of the elevations.
It should be here.
No, the drawings that we have are only for the accessory structure.
I would have to get that information. I don't have
Okay.
that here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so what I'm hearing is that potentially the board might have desired, or at least some members of the board that expressed their comments might have desired a further reduction, but the applicant may have been directed by staff to only reduce by roughly 100 square feet.
That's right. That's what
Okay.
it was. About 100 square feet reduction.
But that was said in the board meeting, or that was something that staff said later?
I think that was at the board meeting.
Okay.
I think there was a discussion of reducing it from 900 something to 800 something at the last meeting that they made their presentation.
Ben, didn't you say that's not true?
I don't believe it was the exact number,
I
but we
don't-
knew we had to reduce it to meet zoning.
I don't remember that number.
Like I said, with you guys, after 2 or 3 times, the details kind of get a little muddy too.
Yeah.
So.
But did you give specific direction on how many square feet, or was there just general?
I gave it has to be under a certain number, and this is the number or close to it. I don't recall the exact number.
Okay, okay. Okay, thank you.
Requirement for elevation of the interior floor in this section of the city?
I don't believe so.
For resiliency or base flood elevation, they're going up at 1.5 feet. And I wonder if there's any flood reasons for that.
I'd have to look at NFIP 2.0 or new flood elevations, but given how this area is closer in, I wouldn't say that was a cause.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So my first glance at this is, again, coming in with the dissension in the original application. I still feel that this is not, it's oversized. It could be further reduced in footprint, slightly reduced in height, particularly if they can gain 1.5 feet just on the elevation. But, and the windows in the back should be eliminated on the rear elevation. That would be my direction, another 100 square feet reduction.
I'm comfortable with those conditions. I think also, given that, what was approved was exceeded, the scope of the approval was exceeded in the demolition of this building. And I think that there are consequences to that this building is no longer there. And what goes back has to be something that takes into consideration that original historic fabric of this district is no longer present. And this was intended to be an addition when we approved it, not new construction. So I would be comfortable with those conditions of approval. I don't know how everybody else feels.
Do you need further illustrations? Because we don't have a site plan.
Yeah.
Do you want to see how it flows? Do you want to see a comprehensive? Because I'm still stuck on like what's the roof material, and is that leading us to further? Hey, we're going to be doing our main house, and that's going to be. Do we take this as an opportunity to refine it really well and dial it in, and then have us all look at it and see how it flows? Is that an opportunity that maybe you guys want to run it off us for further help? Or do we proceed? Because that's kind of where I'm at right now, and I just don't know how it's going to flow. And I don't want to be here 3 months later having the same conversation about, oh, we're now doing the main house roof. Like, I'm trying to avoid that. If we can just do it all at once.
Well, thank you for bringing that up again. I think that's a really good point, that it is a metal roof and something that we should take into consideration, and we don't have any context of the accessory in relation to the primary structure. Would we want to continue it with that direction, that the rear windows be eliminated, an additional 100 square feet be removed and the height be brought down. Do you want to be specific about the height?
I think actually, for the applicant's sake, perhaps if they can show that the height of the existing building, I think, may dictate what that height of the accessory structure should be, it may be fine. But I do think the footprint does need to be reduced further. I don't think that the reduction of the 100 square feet was successful in its reduction.
Okay.
Is it possible to go, the hearing that we were at in June, if in fact the square footage was discussed and the 870 was mentioned and was discussed and confirmed both by staff and here in the hearing room, would then the 872 suffice? Would that work? Because I think maybe we're just not remembering, but I remember clearly that there was a statute that was mentioned. We needed to reduce it to a specific square footage. And so for us, we didn't just pick the 872 out of a hat and say, hey, this is a little smaller. We chose that specifically because that's what the board had asked for. So I just hope, that can be taken into consideration.
I mean,
if we went back and listened to it, I believe that was discussed specifically. So we came back and brought exactly what was asked, thinking that if we did exactly what you asked us to do, we would be approved.
Yeah, well, it's troubling that we're hearing this tonight. I think there may be a zoning parameter that the number is. In any case, the reduction isn't successful. And while we said that 872, you should bring it down to, looking at the footprint, it doesn't seem that is reduced enough, respectfully. And perhaps you can bring a transcript.
And Mr. Murphy, yes, we can do that because, again, we're all here and this is not a matter of hearsay, but yes, it was a specific number that was requested of us, and that's what we complied to. And to be exact, the specific number requested was 873, and we came in exactly a square foot under it. So this was not an arbitrary decision or request. And I guess my comment is the following, and I understand your concerns. What is the number then, and what keeps you from looking at this next time and saying, no, a little bit smaller, a little bit to the side and to the left? Don't we have to follow some guidelines that we can all adhere to and do this type of things in an efficient manner that doesn't just keep postponing the project once we went through and comply with the requests that we received?
Right, I understand that. Like, at what point does the underlying zoning allowances regulate what this board conditions? And I certainly respect your position on that.
Understood. And for reference, there is a site plan, sir, that was presented with the presentation.
Benjamin, is there a way to get the specifics on that? Or we seem to have the same recollection. I don't know if there was a number, like that specific number. I can't imagine anyone on this board would say 872.
I'd have to look through my correspondence.
It just doesn't make sense.
Notes on this case, but I don't have it all in front of me right now.
Right. I mean, it would be more like, oh, reduce it by 10% or reduce it by 100 square feet. But with that information in our backup, I would hate to get into where we're at now with.
Sorry, if I may. I believe it was specifically in reference to, I would remember the number. It was chart number 84 or 96-84 or 84-96 that referenced the percentages and the allowances by the city, and staff could allow up to a 3 or 4% variance to the size of the accessory structure. So it was a whole section of that code that was presented, and based on that, Mr. Salata told us that was the size reduction that we needed.
Yep.
And that was part of that presentation. That was part not of our presentation, that was a part of the response that Mr. Salata provided.
when he came back after our presentation and instructed us as a condition of his approval to reduce it to 872. I apologize for not remembering or not having a copy of that, but it was either 96-84 or 84-96, one of those.
First of all, you absolutely do not have to apologize to me. I appreciate you being so clear and really giving us further insight on what occurred. That's kind of what I think was what we were saying, that there's maybe two things going on here. You were here for the prior applications where, example, a house is allowed to be 2 stories, but upon looking at the context, you heard some of the commissioners say, well, 2 stories, it's out of character. So while the zoning may allow 2 stories, this is a broad example, it may not be appropriate. So I think in this instance, the number was a guidance that is dictated in some chart in the code, but in the change of the situation of your application where it was preserving an element of the original and more leeway was given to you and to the applicant in terms of a variance to build upon it because you were retaining it. Now that that is no longer on the table, you've responded in kind appropriately by eliminating the variance, but now without the reward of retention of that, this board is looking more critically at the overall size of it, I think is the best way I could summarize it. And at this point, it doesn't appear as though the accessory structure is in deference to the primary structure.
Understood. Okay. We'll wait your decision.
So we would like to continue the case. Are you clear on the direction?
No.
Okay. So
I need a number.
we'd like to see the height brought down. Do you want to give a number?
No. Can you provide the height and elevation of the height of the original, of the main house?
Yes.
And the height of your proposal?
Of course.
And can you provide a diagram showing what a reduction of 100 square feet would do to the footprint that you're proposing today, to see if that too would be negligible?
Understood. So you want maybe a hashed area that would show an area that could be reduced or removed it further from the 870?
That's right.
So you're not asking me for a complete redesign, just what it would look like?
I would like that additional information to reconsider your height and your footprint as proposed. You have earned that from at least this voting member. I do believe that the rear elevation of the accessory structure should be eliminated, the windows.
Understood.
So I motion to continue the case 2437 to a date certain of the October 20. Is it 9th, Melissa? Ms. Anderson? 29th?
October.
October 22nd, with the materials requested by this commission.
And do we want to say anything about the roof material?
I don't, someone else could add a friendly amendment. I'm
Do you
fine
want
with.
to add any comments about the roof material?
I just think a plan moving forward, if they're going to do it with their main house, I think we should address it now,
Okay.
so there's uniformity.
Okay, okay. Understood? Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll see you next month. Thank you. Our next case is 24-67836 Upland Road.
How's it going? My name is Dan Egan, 836 Upland Road. Our plans here will show plan to renovate while maintaining the historical charm of this home, street, and neighborhood. We are proposing a 360 square foot addition to the rear of the property, and this will allow for the conversion from a 2-bedroom bath to a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home. Here's the left photo here, front of the house, right side continued. This is the rear of the main structure. Left is another picture of the rear, and then the right side of the house looking out towards the street. That's where the driveway is. Here on the left is the additional structure in the back, and then here's a view of the backyard. Additional structure as well. These are the plans for a swimming pool in there, which will go in between the two structures off to the right side of the backyard in this area right here. Here's the plans here, and right here where the mouse is shows the addition off the rear of the main structure. And continued plans and survey. So, any questions on that?
Questions of the applicant? Could you speak to the reasoning behind changing so many of the window openings, like the size of the window openings on the side elevations?
So I believe the only ones that are changing would be in the addition. So we're changing the windows openings. Those, I don't believe I had that proposed to be changed. Didn't notice that they were in the plans, that they were changed from the original. Had no intention to change that. Is there a large, can't see on here, but is there a major change in the size?
Did anybody else notice that, or was that just me? Okay.
Can you point me out to where? On the existing.
This is your existing right here, this is proposed, you're changing window size, I'm showing you that.
Oh, I didn't notice, yeah, there was no plan for those to be. Okay. I can have that addressed, but yeah, I had no plans to change the size of the windows. Just update them to current code windows.
Are you the property owner or the architect?
The property owner.
Okay. Is the person who prepared the plans here at the meeting
No,
this
they're not.
evening? Okay. And then the carriage house or accessory structure, are those the original doors that have the little windows cut out in them?
Yes. I believe, yeah, they're the original doors.
And you're proposing their removal?
Yes.
Okay.
As they stand, they're not too structurally sound.
Okay. Any other questions?
Let's stay on that accessory structure if we can. In here it says remodeled accessory building, and as we just established, it hasn't been touched yet. So I think I'd want to know what's going on the accessory building, because there's a lot of changes going on, from existing. So my question is, do you have a detailed of what you're going to be remodeling on that accessory structure?
Yeah, I believe there's a half bathroom in there, there'd be a full bathroom inside. As far as the exterior, just windows and no changes made to the exterior of that structure besides those doors. Is your question about the interior of that?
Okay. So you're changing doors, egress, you're doing a big change on the accessory structures. What it looks like?
I guess confusion on a big change there.
Well, we've got remove existing door, you're moving to French doors, you're changing the egress around. So to me, it seems that there's going to be reconfiguring around just your accessory structure. But in the other areas, it says remodeled. So I don't know if it's already been remodeled or if it's to be remodeled.
To be remodeled.
Well, I think it's very valid to discuss, especially on the heels of the last application, the extent of the demolition, the removal and reconfiguring of openings may really compromise the structure. When you get in, you may be like, ooh, more of this has got to go. But as of now, your demolition plans just show the window openings. But, you know, I just want to give you kind of a heads up that if it is proven by the Historic Preservation Officer's report that those swing doors on the accessory structure are original, then I would probably stand very firmly that they've got to be kept there, even if they're blind doors.
Yeah, that wouldn't be an issue.
That's just coming from my sole little vote.
Yep. Understandable.
So to return to your other comments about the windows that you're changing out on the side elevations, so it's not your intention to change the size of the openings?
No. They
Okay.
can be kept, if that's a suggestion from the board to have them kept that way, that would not be an issue.
Okay. And you haven't ordered windows or anything, right?
No.
Okay, good. That's happened.
Yeah, we have not.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Benjamin Slaughter presenting HBP case 2467, additions, alterations to 836 Upland Road. This is our aerial, and this is our site plan. This is photos, the facade is existing in front. These are photos of the front again from the foliage, and 3 shots of the accessory structure in its current state. The request is for demolition of a non-historic 35 square foot laundry room. Proposed addition, rear addition of 355 square feet. Alterations to window and primary structure, which the applicant has addressed. Replacement of 1966 permitted windows and alterations to the facade of the accessory structure. This is the floor plan of both proposed main and accessory. This is the existing. The front elevation proposed and existing. And the rear elevation. This is the left elevation, proposed and existing. And the right. The accessory structure on all 4 elevations. And the roof plan. We do believe this meets 910 codes, the Secretary of Interior's standards. Recommendation is approval. Any questions?
Ben, in your professional opinion, do you believe that those doors on the accessory structure are original?
It's hard to tell by the age of the home and that was a separate, almost storage unit. It looks like the doors are too small for a car. My guess was lawn equipment or some type of play vehicle was in there at one time. It may have been a Model A back in the day, but I don't think the wood of that era can withstand 100 years with the elements compared to the rest of the structure. Judging by the green card, there were some major renovations to this house in the mid-1960s. My guess is those doors and that tile was added then, but that is a guess.
What do you believe the original windows were? How do you believe they operated?
I believe at one time these were jealousies, replaced with the old style crank windows in the mid-1960s, and of course none of this stuff is acceptable by modern building codes.
So you think when it was built they were jalousies?
I believe so. The crank, it seems to fall with the style of the architecture. In 1920s, I don't believe, judging by the openings, they were single hungs or casemates. They seem too long, too narrow.
Was the applicant given direction on the mutton pattern of the windows, or was this just their submittal?
Just their submittal.
Okay. Okay, any further questions of staff? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any members of the public that wish to speak on this case? Okay, seeing none, we'll go into executive session. So I'm glad the property owner is open to keeping the existing size of the openings. I think that's important. In looking at the other houses on the street, seems there's a lot of sash windows. And some casements. Any thoughts on the appropriate, because I think if you're removing the awning windows, you wouldn't necessarily keep that light pattern.
Right. I mean, I think single hung would be appropriate, but it would be the light pattern would, maybe if you wanted to put them just on the top pane is what I would instinctively react that the mission style would likely have for the single hung. Which, to Ben's point, would explain the elongated appearance of the opening. But wish Kristen was here for her expertise on mutton pattern. Yeah, rather than the breakdown as proposed for the single hung currently. I don't know.
So you're talking about like a 6/1 sash window. Okay.
At least on the street facing.
Yes.
I kind of am very lax on the sides, even the, I'm not proposing that they do, but even the changes on the side of the openings I'm less concerned about. But the front, I think I had the window lights on the front seem wrong, just the single hung, and then the door in the back is what I kind of would like to see, even if it's on original 66. is 34 plus 24 is 58. So it's kind of gained significance of now if they could somehow incorporate that.
I agree. I think it speaks to the original use of the building or the structure. Do you think this can be approved with conditions?
I'm comfortable with approving it with those conditions. I don't know how my colleagues feel. Particularly with the elevations do show a deviation from the applicant's words and presentation, verbal presentation. Would this commission be averse to the proposed changes on the window openings if that's what the drawings show?
It just feels a little excessive to change that many. And again, you get into the structural integrity of the wall itself when you're making that many changes.
Well, again, they're losing the entire rear elevation to accommodate the addition. Both of the window changes are on the sides, which I repeat, judging by the photographs, they have no discernible architectural interest features. The applicant is keeping the front facade elevation unchanged, changing the windows, with the direction we could provide to improve the lights, the direction of staff, to have a more appropriate mission style 6/1 or similar light pattern on the single hung, and the rear accessory structure retain the wood doors and have fun with the other stuff you want to do back there. Would be basically my motion.
They're actually reducing, though, the amount of light. They're making the window openings smaller. And there doesn't really seem to be any rhyme or reason to the sizing of the proposed, unless I'm missing that. Like there's not a set type that they're trying to go to, or I think if the owner is open to it, I would like to see the existing openings, the size remain.
Okay.
Does anybody else want to? Yes? Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in?
I agree. I think the desired outcome is just going to be a lot of light. There's going to be a pool feature. It's going to be a great ambiance, a lot of light. I see where they're going with it. I don't have too much comment because if I was living here as well, I would love a lot of light. So I think it's probably whatever you think would be the best guidance to achieve that.
Well, keep in mind, if you look at the floor plan, there's some reconfigured bathroom locations and some relocated kitchen, which traditionally would programmatically reveal itself to the exterior with changes in smaller windows. So, I'll try a motion, but I'm going to make the motion that the applicant can either retain the original openings or modify the windows as evidenced in these drawings.
So you're giving them the option to do one or the other.
That's going to be my motion. Let's see
Okay.
how it goes. I'm going to, the side elevations. The side elevations. So I'm going to move to approve Historic Preservation Board application number case file 2467 for additions in accordance with standards 9 and 10 as set forth in section 9449 of the city's zoning and land development regulations. The motion is based on the testimony presented along with the application submitted and the staff memo, which constitute competent substantial evidence. In addition, the approval of the request is made conditional with the following restrictions and or safeguards that I move are necessary to ensure compliance with the purpose and intent of the Historic Preservation Ordinance, the Historic Preservation element of the comprehensive plan, and the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation, specifically conditions 9 and 10. The conditions include the following: that the applicant shall retain the existing swing doors found in the accessory structure, that the applicant shall modify the light pattern on the front street facing window elevations to a 6/1 or similar mission style single hung window light pattern found typically with mission style. The applicant shall either retain the original side window openings or be approved to proceed with the drawings for the proposed left and right side submitted as part of this application.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Project approved. Thank you. Case number 24-71, 531 31st Street.
I'd just like to remind the board there's in that supplemental material, there's a petition and several letters for this case.
Thank you.
The ones you sent me? Yeah. I didn't know my presentation was already done. So you can
Okay,
use mine
thank
if you want. I have some. I don't have the ones you showed me. They have all three of the engineering reports and all those horrible photos.
The additional material photograph.
I didn't have that, but let's go. We'll try. Go down here. Yeah, mine right here. Yeah. Which one is that?
For the record, Rafael Rodriguez, Stu SR. We've renovated quite a few historic homes over the years, and when we first took on this job, we took a look at the residents, and we had structural engineers take a look at the residents, 3 structural engineers, and also by our experience, it's tough to really call for the demolition of a historic structure. But in this case, I feel that it was so gone beyond what was salvageable. And I just want to paraphrase one of the engineers. It says that the complete removal of the structure down to the foundation and full replacement of building, framing, and foundation is the best and most economical way to ensure this building meets the current code compliances. The new residence is composed of 2,180 square feet in the main house and 900 square foot guest house with a college. This drawing shows the existing survey. The 2-story residence in the front is actually the contributing structure. There's also a 1-story structure in the back that is non-contributing. This is comparison between the existing and the proposed. The new guest house in the back is a 2-story guest house. It's 960 square feet. The front structure
is 2,180 square feet, and there is a connector between the two. It's a non-permanent connector. We've done this before, where it's wood framing with canvas awning. So we took advantage of the site and the design. We decided to push the house over to the west. So with the 5-foot setback, the house is about 25 feet wide, and that gives us about 20 feet on the east side where we located the entertaining area and the pool. There is a pull-up parking space from 31st Street, and also the guest house does have a garage on the first floor accessible from the alley. First floor, 31st Street is to the right. First floor plan, again, you can see the garage, one-car garage, accessible from the alley. There's also a cabana or possibly a guest room located toward the entertainment area near the pool. This is the second floor, which comprises of 3 bedrooms in the main structure, and then there's an additional bedroom on the second floor of the guest house. The roof plan shows the structure will be barrel tile roof on both main house, a simple hip roof, and then the elevations will comprise of typical Mediterranean revel details that we have used in the past, barrel tile roof, stained cypress outriggers. The pitch is 4 on 12. There's a Juliet balcony in the front, which will be comprised of cast stone brackets with aluminum rails. There is an arch entrance with a cast stone surround, which is sort of reminiscent of the structure that was there. And then there's a double window with some tile inserts below the windows. The north elevation shows the one-car garage, which will have some vertical T&G siding on the garage door. The east elevation, which will have a balcony overlooking the pool area. You can see here the dining room area, immediately the one-story structure on the main house. Then there is that connector between the two, and then the 2-story guest house. The west elevation, again, 2-story guest house with the stairs going up to the second floor. The connector element, which will have wood ray house as a screen on one side, and then open on the west side. The 1-story dining room, and then the 2-story main house. The south elevation through the patio shows the view from the cottage to the main house, and then the north elevation below shows the view from the main house to the cottage. This is the streetscape looking north, showing the new residence, which we feel is in harmony with the existing hip roofs of the adjoining houses. Window schedule shows aluminum impact rated windows. Existing photographs of the existing structure. View of the southwest corner. The photograph in the center does show that surround around the entrance. More photographs. And this is the south elevation of the rendering, and then the southeast elevation showing the balcony overlooking the pool. One drawing which was not in your package, which I added today, was the existing streetscape looking north, showing the existing residence, and then the streetscape above with the new residence, which we feel is more in tune with the fabric of the street. That concludes the presentation.
Thank you. Questions of the applicant?
I just wanted to comment and say thank you for all these reports that you provided. It leaves zero doubt in my mind as a professional that this cannot cannot stand. It needs a lot of work. It needs to be completely redone, like they recommended, and that hasn't been the case in the past with some presentations. So thank you for being very thorough with that and providing all the detail.
Is there a, the connector that's pipe and cloth, is that for a zoning workaround?
Yes.
I figured.
If you connect
Okay.
the main house to
I
the
get it.
structure, we can't have a hard surface roof.
Gotta love zoning, right?
Any further questions? Okay, thank you.
Good evening again. Benjamin Salata presenting HPB case 2471, demolition new construction at 531 31st Street. This is our aerial. This is site plan as shown. These are rendering photos of the proposed new construction. This is the current building in its condition. As stated in the 3 engineering reports and our own building officials, this building is of life safety issue. The request is for demolition of a contributing 2528 square foot primary structure, the demolition of a non-contributing 840 square foot two-story accessory structure, the proposed construction of a two-story 2180 square foot primary structure, and proposed construction of a 906 square foot two-story accessory structure. This is the floor plans as proposed. This is the front elevation as proposed. The rear elevation, and the east and west. This is the accessory structure north and south, and the streetscape as provided. The roof plan is proposed. We do believe this meets codes 9 and 10. It's sorry to lose the contributing structure, but considering that the city has called this property a chronic nuisance and the overwhelming support of the neighborhood, we do believe this merits demolition of a contributing structure. It's the recommendation of staff to approve this project. Any questions?
Questions of staff?
Yes. Just want to confirm that this owner has not been contributing to this over the past. This owner is as a recent.
From my
recently
understanding,
acquired
this,
this.
the property appraiser is this. I'm sorry for talking over you, but this house flips, reckless abandon, and it's not being cared for. It's been a blight and home for vagrancy and trash, and the code enforcement case log on this was extensive. So, and there seems to be no ownership regardless of who owns the property.
Any further questions of staff? Okay, seeing none. I have 5 comment cards that are in support of the demolition and new construction, and then I have one from Sandra Saladrigas that would like to speak.
Just want to make sure it's on. I'm Sandra Saladrigas. I'm a resident of Old Northwood. We've been there about going on 24 years, so we've seen a lot of wonderful changes and things happening that have been great and fabulous. And this particular house has been a tragic story. No one is caring for it, as you can easily tell from the photographs. And yes, it is a hazard. Everything from God knows what going on in there, and it would be a horrific situation. And if anyone ever was in there and got hurt, and we all sat and tried to save a house that is not salvageable, there's no DNA of historic preservation in this home left whatsoever, and I think that's pretty apparent from the photographs. And in my personal opinion, I think that the new home that's going up there is way more historic looking than it was considered there, that's sitting there right now. So I'm in a huge support of it, and I hope that you guys consider that as well. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Anything you'd like to say in response? Just to give you the opportunity, not that you need to, but.
No, I just wanted to thank the Neighbor Association. We met with them, and we sent Benjamin a petition with, I think, 35 signatures, but I think there's more than that. The neighbors were just so elated when they found out that something was going to happen. I especially spoke to the neighbor to the west, who's been trying to sell a house for quite some time, but she's having difficulty because every time someone shows the house, they ask her about the house next door. And also the neighbor across the street who has been waiting for years for something to happen there, also on this property.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further questions, then that's the end of public comments. We'll go into executive session. Any discussion by the board? I agree with your comment earlier. It's great to have such exhaustive reporting, and also obviously to have the building official weigh in. It helps us have as much information and evidence as possible on which to base our decisions, so we appreciate that.
Does anyone else have issue with the entrance? The front door,
In
the
that
front entrance.
the height, like
It looks
tall
awkward.
and
I
narrow.
think it's absolutely beautiful, but I think like that one front entryway, the proportion is off. And maybe they could work with staff to refine the proportion. It just looks like for a very tall, thin person, and it just doesn't. And I can get into how it leads into a peekaboo window into a powder room, but I don't want to go there. But that could just be refined a little and work with staff. Otherwise, I just think it's great.
I agree with that. I'd be good with that as a condition. Any other comments? Okay,
I think it looks great. Yeah, I agree.
Good. Good. And we will need 2 motions, one for demolition and then one for new construction.
I move that the Historic Preservation Board approve application number
2471.
24-71.
Thank you. For demolition in accordance with the demolition guidelines as set forth in the Historic Preservation Ordinance, Section 9449 of the city's zoning and land development regulations. The motion is based on testimony presented along with the application submitted in the staff memo, which constitutes competent substantial evidence.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Okay. I move that the Historic Preservation Board approve application number 24-71 for new construction in accordance with the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation, specifically standards 9 and 10, as well as the additional compatibility criteria set forth in the Historic Preservation Ordinance, Section 9449 of the City Zoning and Land Development Regulations. The motion is based on the testimony presented along with the application submitted and the staff report, which constitute competent substantial evidence. In addition, the approval of the request is made conditional upon the following restriction and/or safeguard that I move are necessary to ensure compliance with the purpose and intent of the Historic Preservation Ordinance and the Historic Preservation element of the Comprehensive Plan of the City of West Palm Beach. The Secretary of Interior Standards for Rehabilitation, specifically Standards 9 and 10. The conditions include the following: that the applicant shall work on the refinement of the ground floor front entrance, the proportion and width in consult with the preservation planner on staff.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. And with that, we have concluded our agenda for this evening. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
I motion that we adjourn the meeting.
A second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Motion carries. Thank you.